Crackerjack Funnies, number 15, September 1939, published by Dell Comics. It went on sale July 26, 1939. The editor at Dell was Oscar Lebec. There is a mile-high pedigree copy of this book from the Edgar Church collection. Buck Jones is featured on the cover, and Buck Jones slaps leather on the cover and slyly directs cigarette smoke towards his adversary's face. This issue also features highlight strips such as Tom Mix, Red Ryder, Tarzan, Don Winslow, and Dan Dunn. Action Comics, number 16. September 1939, published by DC Comics. It went on sale July 24th, 1939. The editor at DC was Vincent Sullivan. This was the #1 best-selling comic book on the newsstands, featuring Superman. A Legionnaire battles it out with an Arab in the sands of the Middle East on this classic cover, drawn by artist Fred Guardineer. Superman is featured in a 13-page strip called Superman and the Numbers Racket, from the team of Siegel and Schuster in this early classic superhero strip, featuring Clark Kent as Superman, an unnamed George Taylor, Police Commissioner Watson, Marty Kay, who is a villain, as well as Butch, Nick, and Pete, who are also villains. After a run-in with a gambler who is opting out for suicide and a police commissioner who won't deal with the city's gambling problem, Superman decides to wage a one-man war himself against gambling and aid the victims of it. Superman number 2 was about to go on sale, and the last panel of this Superman strip features an illustrated plug for the New York World's Fair Comics for 1939. Odds and Ends is a one-page strip drawn by Sheldon Moldoff. Pat Morgan returns in 6 pages from writer Gardner Fox and artist Fred Guardineer under the alias Gene Baxter, and the story would continue in the next issue. Clip Carson was 6 pages written by Bill Finger with art by Bob Kane. Tex Thompson featured in 10 pages from artist Bernard Baily, featuring Gargantua Teapots becoming Tex's valet. The Terror from Saturn is the title of the Zatana Master Magician strip, which runs 12 pages, written by Gardner Fox with art by Fred Guardineer. Invaders from Saturn want to take over Earth. This is the first time since the first 3 issues of Action Comics in which Zatana speaks backwards to invoke his magic. Super Comics number 16, September 1939, published by Dell Comics. This issue went on sale August 8th, 1939. The editor at Dell was Oscar Lebec. There is a Dell file copy in existence. Terry and the Pirates is featured on the cover from artist Milt Caniff. Dick Tracy appears in a 4-page strip from writer-artist Chester Gould, and Terry and the Pirates strip is 4 pages from writer-artist Milt Caniff. Comics on Parade number 18, September 1939, published by United Features Syndicate. Lil Abner and Captain and the Kids featured on the cover. The Beasts of Tarzan is a 5-page strip based on the writing of Edgar Rice Burroughs in this classic jungle tale. Wayne Webster is a 3-page text story written by John Paul Fredericks with art by Paul Berdanier. It's a sports strip. Alice in Wonderland returns in 2 pages from writer Olive Ray Scott with art by Ed Cookies in the supernatural story based on Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. And Little Abner returns in 4 pages from writer-artist Al Cap. Feature Comics number 24, September 1939, published by Quality Comics. This is the 4th issue of this title. The editor at this time at Quality Comics was Ed Cronin, and Ed Cronin is the cover artist who drew Joe Palooka. The Clock appears in a 5-page story from writer-artist George E. Brenner in this early classic superhero strip featuring Brian O'Brien as the Clock. And it's the first appearance of the villains Nillet and Joe and Kratz. Gallant Knight is a 4-page strip from writer-artist Vernon Henkel, featuring the first appearance of Charlemagne. And this is the last appearance of this strip. Rube Goldberg's Sideshow is a 1-page strip written and drawn by Rube Goldberg. It's humor strip reprints. Charlie Chan makes his 2nd appearance ever in comic books in a 9-page story written and drawn by Alfred Andriola. Ace Comics number 30, September 1939, published by David McKay Publications. This issue features the Fantom, Prince Valiant, Blondie, Crazy Cat, and many more. There is a Lamont Larson pedigree copy and a Lost Valley pedigree copy. The Cats and Jammer Kids are featured on the cover, drawn by Joe Musial. Jungle Jim is a 4-page strip drawn by Alex Raymond. reprints, Valiant returns in 4 pages, drawn by Hal Foster, and the Fantom appears in 4 pages, written by Lee Falk, with art by Ray Moore in this classic Avenger Jungle / superhero strip. Detective Comics number 31, September 1939, published by DC Comics. One of the most famous comic book covers of all time, and one of the most valuable comic books of all time. A classic cover by Bob Kane and Jerry Robinson. This issue features debuts of the Batplane, the Batarang, and the first appearance of Bruce Wayne's fiancée, Julie Madison. This issue went on sale July 30th, 1939. The editor at DC was Vincent Sullivan. There is a Davis Crippen D-copy pedigree copy of this book. Batman is featured on the cover, drawn by Bob Kane, featuring Batman, Julie Madison, and the Monk. The Batman story runs 10 pages in this issue. It is called Batman vs. the Vampire Part 1. Written by Gardner Fox with art by Bob Kane, and Sheldon Moldoff drew the backgrounds. It's an early hero strip, and the 5th appearance of Batman and Bruce Wayne. Julie Madison appears in a first appearance. We also get Dr. Trent and the first appearance of the villain, the Monk. When Batman discovers Julie in a trance, he is advised by Doctor to take her to Hungary, where he faces a living vampire who wishes to kill the Caped Crusader and feed Julie to his werewolves. This story would not be reprinted until the 100-page super spectacular number 14 in 1973. Batman uses 2 new weapons in the story, the Bat Gyro and the Batarang. This is the first appearance of Julie Madison. She would show up in only a few additional issues until she breaks off her engagement in Detective Comics number 49. This storyline would continue in the next issue. Policeman is a 1-page strip drawn by Paul Gustafson. Spy returns in 6 pages from Jerry Siegel writing, with art by Mart Baily, featuring the character Bart Regan. Newspaper Nightmare is a 2-page text story written by Gardner Fox under the alias Paul Dean. Speed Saunders' Ace Investigators, a 6-page strip drawn by Fred Guardineer. And Slam Bradley returns in a 13-page strip from the team of Siegel and Schuster, featuring Slam Bradley, Shorty Morgan, and Duggan. The Funnies, number 35, September 1939, published by Dell Comics. This is the first cover appearance ever of John Carter of Mars. This is also the first appearance of Mr. District Attorney in comic books. This issue went on sale August 15th, 1939. There is a Dell file copy in existence. John Carter of Mars is featured on the cover in this early science fiction cover. The Crime Busters is a 4-page strip drawn by Alden McWilliams. The John Carter of Mars strip runs for 4 pages based on the writings of Edgar Rice Burroughs, with art by John Coleman Burroughs in this early science fiction strip. The Singing Cowboy, Gene Autry, returns in a 4-page strip called Frame Up. Dick Tracy and the Feynman Gang is a 3-page text story. The Wonderland of Oz is 3 pages from artist Walt Spouse, based on the Wizard of Oz book series. And Mr. District Attorney debuts in a 4-page strip based on the radio show. Tip Top Comics number 41, September 1939, published by United Features Syndicate. This is a Tarzan and dinosaur cover, and it reprints the first Tarzan Sundays. Little Abner, the Captain, the Kids, and many other strips appear. There's a Lost Valley pedigree copy of this book. King Comics number 41, September 1939, published by David McKay Publications. Popeye is featured once again on the cover, drawn by artist Joe Musial. Adventure Comics number 42, September 1939, published by DC Comics. This is the 4th appearance ever of the original Sandman, complete with mask, green hat, purple cape, and gas gun. And it makes a 2nd cover appearance with this issue, which went on sale August 3rd, 1939. The editor at DC Comics was Vincent Sullivan. There's a Mile High pedigree copy of this book from the Edgar Church collection. The Sandman is featured on the cover, possibly drawn by Craig Flessel in this classic early superhero cover, featuring Wesley Dodds as the Sandman. And the Sandman strip in this issue runs 6 pages, drawn by Bert Christman, and features Wesley Dodds as the Sandman with some origin details. We also get the first appearance of the villain Teeter Sneed, and we get Dr. Clyde Dunlap, Happy O'Shea, and Steve Weber. Wesley Dodds joins up with 2 of his former service buddies to discover if Teeter Sneed has a hand in the killing of several of their old chums and threatening to do the same to several others. Sandman's origin mentions that he was in the service 6 years ago. Wesley Dodds does not appear as the Sandman in this story. Federal Men is a 4-page strip written by Jerry Siegel with art by Wayne Boring in this detective mystery featuring the first appearance of the villain Cal Grant and Lenny Trask. Professor Doolittle is a 2-page strip from writer and artist Bob Kane. The Menace of Chen Fu Part 2 is the name of the strip for Rusty and His Pals, running 4 pages from writer-artist Bob Kane, featuring Chen Fu as the villain. Cotton Carver is 6 pages from writer Gardner Fox with art by Ogden Whitney, featuring the characters Cotton Carver and the villain Nerol and Jagger. This Doggone World is a 1-page strip written and drawn by Fred Schwab. It's the last appearance of this strip. Wayne Boring, born June 5th, 1905, lived until February 20th, 1987, an American comic book artist best known for his work on Superman in the 40s and 50s. He occasionally used the pseudonym Jack Harmon. In 1942, DC hired Boring as a staff artist. A more detailed origin story for Superman by Boring and writer Bill Finger was presented in Superman 53 to mark the character's 10th anniversary. Boring co-created The Fortress of Solitude with writer Jerry Coleman, and Bizarro World in Action Comics 263 with Otto Binder. Boring was the primary Superman comic book penciler throughout the 1950s. Ogden Whitney, born 1918, died in the early 1970s, an American comic book artist and sometimes writer active in the 30s and 40s through the 60s. He is best known as co-creator of the aviator hero the Skyman, and of the superpowered novelty character Herbie Popnecker, and his alter ego, the satiric superhero the Fat Fury. Whitney, as well, had long runs on characters as diverse as the Western masked crime fighter, the Two-Gun Kid, and the career girl character Millie the Model for Marvel Comics. Popular Comics number 43, September 1939, published by Dell Comics. This issue went on sale August 1st, 1939. The editor at Dell Comics was Oscar Lebec. Gangbusters, The Masked Pilot, Tex Thorne, Penguin Pete, Jack Randall, and Shark Egan are all featured on the cover. The Mystery of Mr. Wong is a 1-page strip drawn by Jim Gary. It's a detective mystery and adaptation of the Monogram Pictures movie, The Mystery of Mr. Wong, starring Boris Karloff. Tarzan is featured in a 3-page text story based on the writings of Edgar Rice Burroughs and the classic Jungle Tale. Jack Randall as Cherokee is a 6-page Western frontier strip based on the Monogram Pictures present Jack Randall as Cherokee in Across the Plains. Gangbusters is a 6-page strip drawn by Al McWilliams and would be reprinted in 4-color number 7 in 1940. More Fun Comics number 47, September 1939, published by DC Comics. Went on sale July 28, 1939. The editor at DC was Vincent Sullivan. There is a Cosmic Airplane pedigree copy of this book. The cover art is by Fred Guardineer, featuring a hunter and African guide versus a lion. Handcuff Hank is a 4-page strip written and drawn by Russell Cole, and this is the only appearance of this humor strip. Radio Squad is 6 pages from the team of Siegel and Schuster in their detective mystery, featuring Chuck Mason and his gang. Ginger Snap is a 2-page story written and drawn by Bob Kane. Cal and Alec is a 2-page strip written and drawn by Fred Schwab, featuring the villain Slaughterhouse Pete, and this is the last appearance of this strip. Bulldog Martin is 6 pages written and drawn by Bart Toomey, featuring the first appearance of Bulldog Martin and Jonah. And Buccaneer returns in 5 pages from writer-artist Bernard Baily, featuring the villain Dr. Killman. Mickey Mouse Magazine, number 48, Volume 4, number 12, September 1939, published by Western Comics. This issue has a format change. It's the first issue in full color, cover to cover. Donald's Penguin is featured on the cover in the main story. This issue went on sale August 15th, 1939. There's a 2-page text story of Donald Duck. There's a couple different comic strips of Mickey Mouse and also of Pluto the Pup. Famous Funnies number 62, September 1939, published by Eastern Color. Still the longest-running comic book on the newsstands. This issue features 2 pages of early Jack Kirby artwork. There's a mile-high pedigree copy of this book from the Edgar Church collection. The cover art is by Victor Pasmino, featuring the character Rudolph Razendale. Buck Rogers returns in a 4-page strip written by Phil Nolan with art by Dick Calkins in the early classic science fiction strip. Lightnin' and the Lone Rider is a 2-page story with art by Jack Kirby under the alias Lance Kirby in this Western frontier tale. And Jerry Iger writes and draws his 1-page humor strip, Queenie.